What's up, folks? I'm Chris, your NFL writer here at Occupy Fantasy, here with a look at the two-game preseason NFL DFS slate here to kick off the second week of the NFL preseason here on Friday, August 15th. Thank you for being here. Let's jump right into it. We have two staggered start times tonight. We have the Falcons playing the Titans at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and then we have the Chiefs visiting Seattle to play the Seahawks at 10 p.m. Eastern. And I'm going to start with the first game at the quarterback position because the Atlanta Falcons, of the four teams that are playing tonight, they're the only ones that are going to be playing just two quarterbacks this evening. Starter Michael Penix and veteran backup Kirk Cousins were both ruled out by Coach Raheem Morris. So that means we're going to see very similar usage to what we saw in the first preseason game last week against the Detroit Lions, which was admittedly cut short. So we'll see how the Falcons choose to divide up the playing time between Stick and Emory Jones here. But playing time trends for the Falcons and for Raheem Morris tell us basically that between Jones here and Easton Stick, they're both going to get about a half each. Easton Stick will have a little bit of a higher ceiling, we think, because he'll be playing with some of the players higher up on the depth chart in the first half, where the Falcons are a little bit more likely to throw the football. Stick does carry a little bit of rushing upside as well on his own right, but we're looking to use Stick for his playing time upside and with some wide receivers that I'll talk about in a little bit. The other quarterback that's going to be really popular tonight, he was popular last week as well, Jalen Milroe out of Alabama with the Seattle Seahawks. Now, Seahawks head coach Mike Macdonald did tell us that he expects his starters to get a couple of series tonight, so that does mean that Seattle will be playing three quarterbacks. Every team other than Atlanta is playing three quarterbacks tonight. The reason we're interested in Milroe is for his rushing upside, and we have some pretty clear stacking partners that we can pair with him in high-risk contests, low-risk contests as well, with some of these Seahawk wide receivers and running backs that we really, really like this evening. Speaking of those running backs, George Olani with Seattle is going to be the most popular running back play on this slate. Olani had a big game last week. He scored a touchdown for the Seahawks in that matchup, and the biggest thing that we have working in his favor is that the beat writers seem to think, there's a couple of things. The beat writers seem to think he has the edge over Damian Martinez, the 7th-round draft pick in camp. This is a report by Bob Condata, who is a longtime Seattle Seahawks beat reporter for the Seattle Times. And he also reported that we expect Holani to get ample work here in this game on Friday. That's in this article here on the Seattle Times as well. Last year, Seattle played one running back 50% of the snaps in both of preseason week 2 and in preseason week 3, and they alternated who those players were. Basically, in the second preseason game, they gave that primary running back role to the player who was not featured the most in week 1. And the player that was featured the most in week 1 will play again the most in week 3. That means Damian Martinez, who played the most snaps at running back last week, aka week 1 of the preseason, probably going to play the most snaps in week 3. Martinez, a good high-risk play tonight at running back, but Holani, we're expecting him to see the most work, and the market tends to agree here. If you take a look around some of the different providers in the industry, DraftKings here with pick 6, especially, Holani's going to have the highest rushing yardage stat line that you can look at for some of those fantasy slip contests you can enter here. So we like George Olani as the number 1 running back for low-risk contests, for all contest types here, Friday night preseason week number 2. The other running back that I'm a big fan of here for low-risk contests is going to actually come from the first game on the Tennessee side. Now, you see they have 6 running backs on the roster here. Tony Pollard's probably only going to get a couple of series with Cam Ward and the starting receivers, and then he'll be done. Tajay Spears has a high ankle sprain, so he's going to be out potentially into the regular season. When you look at Tennessee's depth chart, Khalil Mullings here is listed on the second team alongside Tajay Spears. So he's expected to get a decent amount of work tonight because he'll be with the second unit. He could be playing extensively here with Brandon Allen in this game, and we also have Titans beats here actually projecting Mullings for a big weekend here, seen getting some reps with Cam Ward as well. So third on the depth chart, you'll likely see increased action in this game, and that is why we like Mullings as a good low-risk play, as a good high-risk play. Probably the second best running back, I would say, that you can throw into your lineups here in week number 2 on Friday night on the short 2-game slate. Now, if you're playing Easton Stick, you're probably most interested in some receivers that you can pair with him. When we look at how the Falcons used their wide receivers in their shortened game last week, Dylan Drummond ran the most routes. He had 18 routes run last week against Detroit in their shortened 3-quarter plus 1 play game. He was targeted on 44% of those routes. He had 8 targets, 63 receiving yards. Drummond operated largely out of the slot. Roughly 2/3 of his routes that he ran came from slot positions. Shout out to PFF for those statistics. So we think there's a pretty high floor play here with Dylan Drummond getting a lot of playing time in this game, probably with both Stick and Jones. The other receiver that would be good for high-risk contests with Atlanta that played a ton alongside Dylan Drummond's, Jesse Matthews. Jesse Matthews ran 16 routes, second most on the team. Ran most of those from outside wide receiver positions. Only 1/3 of his routes were from slot positions. And he was targeted on just 6% of his routes. So nobody really wants to play Jesse Matthews tonight because they didn't see a big game from him last week, which we know was always an opportunity to exploit in high-risk contests. So really like Jesse Matthews here. Now keep an eye on some of these other Atlanta wide receivers because they have a trend where the guys that play the most in the first week of the preseason, this is a Raheem Morris specific trend with the Atlanta Falcons, they don't typically continue to play the most snaps in the second week of the preseason. So we're actually expecting guys like David Sills, Chris Blair, and even Nick Nash here to actually potentially see a tick up in playing time for Atlanta. So all of those guys, good plays for high-risk contests with the Falcons as well this evening. Now, Torrey Horton is the wide receiver everybody knows. He's been generating a ton of buzz in Seahawks camp. The 5th-round pick had a huge game in week 1 of the preseason. 7 targets, 31 receiving yards, but an astronomically high 103 air yards with an average of a 14.7-yard average depth of target on his targets from Seattle quarterbacks. Targeted on just under 39% of his routes run as well. This is going to be your number 1 receiver for low-risk contests tonight. He should see extensive run with the second unit with Drew Lock and also potentially even a little bit with Sam Darnold at the beginning of the game if he's truly working in with Smith and Jigba and Cooper Kupp as well. So Torrey Horton going to be your most popular wide receiver play here on Friday night. There's a couple of Titans receivers that I really like in high-risk contests tonight. Titans Beats. This is Jim Wyatt, who writes for TennesseeTitans.com. Pretty simply, the team is looking to see continued improvement from rookie receivers Alec Eomanor and Shamir Dyke here this evening. So if you want to mix in some Titan receivers in your high-risk contest, look no further than Eomanor and Dyke as the best options because it does seem like those are the guys that the Titans want to work into their game plan tonight. And there's even another report out there that we have in our daily plug, which is linked in the description of the video below with all of our notes about every player at every position on all 4 of these teams playing tonight. Well worth the read in the Access if you don't have it yet. We also saw some reports this week that Eomanor is the only second-string player that is consistently getting passing game targets and volume in practice from all the quarterbacks that he's working with. So he's probably a great play here as well. Now, at tight end, I think you see names like Chigakonkwo, who's a starting tight end. Tennessee Titan starters are going to get some run tonight. You see Travis Kelce on here. He's not going to play tonight. You see an Elijah Arroyo, a rookie draft pick by Seattle, expected to get a ton of run. Field's probably going to play him tonight a little bit. None of these guys are our favorite play at the position. Our favorite play is Bob Tonyan, former Green Bay Packer, now the 3rd-string tight end here with the Tennessee Titans. An exploitable trend that we've uncovered in our research is that the Chiefs tend to play their 3rd-string tight end extensively every single preseason game over the last few years with Andy Reid, and that is going to be Bob Tonyan here, who has shown passing game prowess, had a decent amount of work last week. I believe it was 4 targets, and then he had 50% of the routes run, so we're expecting roughly the same usage from Bob Tonyan here tonight. Now, I mentioned Elijah Arroyo with Seattle. Our favorite Seattle tight end for a high-risk play is actually going to be Marshall Lamb. The Seahawks tend to feature a different tight end in terms of the most playing time every single week of the preseason. That was what they did last year under this coaching staff. So we're expecting that to continue. And Lang, who led this team in targets and air yards, I know it wasn't much. It was 3 targets and 30 air yards last week at tight end. Seems like a decent person to consider, the one to see the most work here in week number 2 here on Friday night. What are some of your favorite top plays on this preseason slate? Looking forward to answering any questions you guys have. Please drop those in the comment section, and I will do my best to answer those for you throughout the evening before this slate locks. We also have some rankings for the single game showdown slate between Kansas City and Seattle in our daily plug as well. So that is another reason to make sure you're subscribed to OccupyFantasy.com and reading our written content that we post for the NFL preseason. Every single day, we're going to have a video on this channel and we're going to have an article on our website giving you top plays for preseason DFS slates. It's the number one reason why you don't want to miss the action that we have for you here. I do want to give you a little bit of a brief update of what to expect tomorrow. We have 11 NFL games on Saturday, a big day here in preseason week 2. Our plan is to do a live show here on this channel Saturday morning, probably around like 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and hit that notifications bell because you will know when we schedule that show. On that show, we're going to go over the top plays for 3 different slates. Maybe 4, actually. There's going to be an early 6-game slate locking at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There's going to be a main 5-game slate locking at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I believe there's going to be 2 standalone showdown contests as well. A midday showdown between the Raiders and the 49ers. And then there is an evening game as well at the end of the day that there should be some contests for as well here on DraftKings and FanDuel that we will cover for you here on the channel. But before we get there, as always, good luck tonight, and we'll be back to talk to you tomorrow.